Billy Porter here, and in this video we're going to be diving into essentially what my mental health protocols are. So the reason I feel like I'm qualified to talk about this is I've had two bouts of clinical depression, one from about 16 to 19, and then another one from about 20 to probably to 24. So yeah, I've had to implement a lot of the stuff on this list, and I feel like I'm in a good spot now. A lot still have ruts, I still have bad times where I don't follow the stuff on this list, and that gets me into trouble. But overall, I think I've done a better job, and I'm way more even. There's far less like peaks and troughs. So I'm just going to jump into it right now. And as far as the foundation for all of this, it is the small habits, and it is specifically like the biology stuff. You're never going to transcend that. So especially with sleep, like I the times that I'm most emotional, either when I'm hungover or when I've had a lack of sleep, that's when I really lose like the emotional regulation that I would normally have. And so sleep is super important. So just to start on that, like I've got another video on the channel you can talk about that you can look at with 11 tips or whatever it is for getting better sleep. But the number one thing you can do is just go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. That's something I do all the time, even if I'm traveling, even if I'm with my parents. I'm sure they get annoyed at me a little bit for getting up at 7, even on a weekend, and banging about and making cups of tea. But that's something that is like crucial to me. I won't give up. And then obviously just the standard stuff of having like a cold, dark, quiet room. That's going to be big for you. And something that's had a big impact for me recently on the sleep side is taking ZMA, which is zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B6. So you can find it in that formula. Even if you just take zinc, that will have a big impact. So yeah, that's something you want to do too. And even on the sleep side and kind of going into nutrition, having your meals at the same time, essentially all of this stuff, your body is a machine and you want it to know and adapt to when you have stuff. Where things go wrong is when you create uncertainty or create variables. So I'll eat at the same times. I fast in the morning, or sometimes I'll have a protein bar, and then I'll eat at 11:30 or 12, and then I'll eat again at 5:30 or 6 in the evening, and then I won't eat before bed, because the further away from sleep you can eat a big meal, the better. If you're working out or eating a big meal before bed, then it'll fuck up your sleep. So definitely don't do that. And as far as nutrition, standard stuff, stay away from sugar. Really, obviously, eating the same meals a lot of the time. Big tip that I got, which I think is pretty true for everybody, is that a lot of the time it's only really one meal a day out of the three that you're going wrong on. So if you could just change that one thing, which for me, I have like a meal delivery service that I get now in the evenings. That was always the meal that I either would get busy with work, be working till like 8 or 9 and not want to cook, and then either get fast food or not eat, which is obviously even worse. And so, yeah, sorting out that meal has done wonders for my body fat percentage, as well as just general happiness and overall nutrition. And then hydration. I drink a bunch of water. I've got my water bottle on my desk here, which I don't know how many I drink a day, but it's probably 4 or 5 full bottles of my chili bottle. So that's something that you really want to get dialed in first of all. So again, if you wanted me to go deeper on any of those three things, sleep, nutrition, or hydration, then do let me know. But as far as that, I just wanted to keep it brief because I think that is the foundation for all the other stuff that we're going to do up here. So the next, and this is the thing that really got me out of the first bout of depression, which was someone gave me a mindfulness book, and at the time, like my motivation and just general state was just apathy, and so even getting me to read a book was super tough. So I've included the book that I actually read, which is this one, Practical Mindfulness, a step-by-step guide. And essentially what this did was get me out of my thoughts. So that's the whole point of mindfulness. But even just reading the book was the same exercise too, where it got me out of my thoughts and into reading the book and understanding the principles. So these few things are something that I try and do all the time. I still have thoughts racing in my mind a lot, and I have to be careful not to follow them down because as far as everything that I've learned, like I really have understood at least my depression as just a negative spiral of thoughts. And what the issue becomes with that is that you buy into that and you don't get an outside perspective on it, which mindfulness and meditation are designed to have. So you're going to have these emotions, but if you start buying into them and feeling them and feeding them, then they'll continue and the downward spiral will exist. But if you can, like I've said about the being hungover, I know I write off the whole day of just like, Billy, don't listen to any of your thoughts today. None of it's true. Don't worry about it. You're not a piece of shit. Your life isn't broken. You don't hate yourself. Like, just don't listen to any of this. Just let it pass. And by having that attitude, it's served me greatly. So I've got fallen off the wagon a little bit with meditation, but that was something that I was really big on, especially when I was struggling with depression, something I'm definitely going to get back into even just making this video is motivation for me, because the reason that like meditation is so valuable, everybody fucking talks about it, but the bottom line is that being able to not buy into your thoughts and let them just go, even emotions and feelings, being angry, whatever it is that's happening to you, if you can just have an outside perspective on it. And that's what meditation is great about, is that when these events happen, somebody cuts you off in traffic, somebody sends you a nasty message, or something goes on at work, you can just let it go, understand the full situation, go, how am I actually feeling about this? And just let those emotions pass like clouds in the sky, versus actually buying into them, and then having that become an issue. And then gratitude, something that I've been super, super big on over the last probably 6 months, I would say, because a lot of the ruts that I got into were probably because I wasn't really appreciating all that I've done in my life. Like the money that I make now, like I make over 10K a month. That's something that I've wanted since I was 16 years old, and to be able to finally do it, I haven't given myself enough credit for that. I've built the body that I want, and this isn't all to brag, but this is to say that doesn't matter how big your accomplishments are, if you don't show gratitude for them, if you don't, be thankful for them, then they'll go away and you won't appreciate them. No matter how blessed your life is, you just won't appreciate it unless you take the organized time to do that. So for all three of those things, I try and make them a daily practice. Mindfulness of just like, if I go on a walk, I'll have like no headphones, no phone, and I'll just look at nature, look at things, not make any judgments of anything. I won't say that's a nice tree, it's cold, or it's warm, or it's windy. I'll just try and just clear my mind and just enjoy the walk and be in the moment. The same meditation, that's something I'm going to make a daily practice soon, even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, just to clear my mind and get some of that emotional regulation back. And then gratitude is something that I do on a daily basis. That takes the form of prayer for me, but it can just be having a gratitude journal and writing down 3 things you're thankful for today. Cool. Then the next thing that we're going to go into, which actually I think we'll delay that, but we'll do that later on because it'll be a bit of a sidebar. So cool. Essentially, I have something else that's a morning routine, a morning formula for me, which I'll go into shortly, but that's a lot of things to do with identity and kind of how you want to see yourself. So I think that fits in better later on. And then positive actions, habits, and self-trust. So this is what actually got me out of a big rut that I had recently. I'd probably maybe call it a few months of depression, but it depends. And so it was really just doing the small actions and the small stuff that I didn't want to do. That was what really got me out of it. Was like, it was making my bed, it was doing my grooming routine, like shaving on a regular basis, washing my face on a regular basis, cleaning my teeth on a regular basis, because that's all things that I'd let slip and just got very comfortable and just not done any of that. So in the same way that I talked about depression as a downward thought spiral, I do believe that the opposite exists, which is a positive spiral. Like if you have positive self-talk, and if you're gaining self-trust through doing the things that you said you were going to do, that is an incredible upward spiral. So it started with stuff like making my bed, and then it came to doing like big work projects I've been putting off, recording these videos that I've been putting off and procrastinating, to be real with you. So there is a positive spiral, and it doesn't matter how small it is. You don't want to set the bar super high that's like, oh, I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes a day every day this week. You want to do, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes. Like this has happened even with the gym. Like I love the gym, but there's times when I don't want to go, and I'll just say, okay, cool, I'll bargain with myself, which kind of sounds a bit nuts now I'm saying it out loud, but I'll go, hey, Billy, you don't have to do a whole workout. You don't have to be in there for an hour and a half. All you've got to do is go in there and warm up. See how you feel. If you don't feel good after the warm up, you can just go home. And so what I'll do is I'll go in after the warm up, and then I'll be like, oh, cool, the warm up went well. Like, let me just do like a bit of like snatch and clean and jerk, and then I'll do that. And then I'll go, oh, okay, cool. Let me just do some dips or some accessory work afterwards. And it's a spiral. And then I end up having a great session and enjoying myself, all because I set a low bar, which was just go to the gym and warm up. So that's really what you want to do. And all of those positive habits, however small, just build self-trust, because you're doing the things that you said you were going to do. And a lot of the times that things aren't going well, I'll get angry at myself for not doing those things, and that doesn't create a good atmosphere. I stop trusting myself. I be very hard on myself, which is definitely a big flaw of mine, because I don't trust that I'm going to do what I said I was going to do anymore. So even for me, I fall off the wagon. I've been saying to myself that I need to stretch every night. Last night I didn't do it, so I want to be truthful about this process, but it's something that I continue to focus on and continue to try and build self-trust around. And then I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit here to speak about the 2 kinds of suffering, because it does play into that. So this is a Buddhist principle, and they talk about there being two kinds of suffering. Essentially, the first order of suffering is the actual event that happens. Somebody crashes into your car, and the negative emotions that causes you. And then the second order consequences or second kind of suffering is your thoughts about that event and the meaning that you assign to it. So I could say, let's go back to the stretching at night example. I could say, obviously, the not doing the stretching. I go, okay, cool, that wasn't good. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. You're going to have a sore back tomorrow because you didn't do it. And then the second kind of suffering is me continuing to have self dialogue about that and go, man, you're a piece of shit. Like, why didn't you just do the stretching last night? Man, you don't do what you say you're going to do. You're not disciplined. And just having very negative self-talk about that. So it's like, okay, the thing happened, I've accepted it, but then I'm also berating myself and giving myself a hard time. So it's the same thing as somebody crashed into my car and wrote it off, which was not a great experience for me. Obviously, there's the trauma of that actual event, and then me continuing to be like, oh shit, I haven't got the money for a new car, or what could I have done to avoid it, and just constantly like having those cycles go round, and that's a second kind of suffering. So what you really want to get to, like with the meditation practice we talked about, is that you can experience the first kind of suffering and then not have the second type, which is the constant like mental dialogue about it. You just accept events as they are, move on, and go about your life. So that's really what we're aiming to do with that. So cool. And then, yeah, discipline and asceticism. So that's always a word that I've been attracted to. I've read a lot of books by someone called Hermann Hesse, who talks a lot about the difference essentially between being a man of the world and being kind of a monk. Like that's always kind of like the paradox that he pulls up. And so for me, that has always been come down to like this bullet point that I put there, which is delaying gratification, which doesn't feel good. Like the stretching at night stuff doesn't feel good when I'm doing it like 3 rounds of even it's just 3 rounds of 1 minute doing like the couch stretch to stretch my hip flexors out. It's very painful. At the end of a long day, I've already had a gym session. I've already done 8-9 hours of work or more. To sit down and do that stretch and cause myself more mental anguish doesn't feel good, but I know it's the long term the right thing to do. So a lot of this comes down to your tolerance for pain, and for every like the way I've got myself to where I am right now is just through making myself uncomfortable, taking risks, and doing the painful things because I know they're going to pay off in the long term. So that's something that you really need to remember, and that's what discipline comes down to. A lot of the best gym sessions I've had have been when I've not felt like it, and those are the times that I think it really pays off. When you're in a great mood, you're on 200 milligrams of caffeine, and everything feels light. You definitely still make progress then, but I feel like where you make progress over others and where you beat the competition is when you really don't feel like it and you still do it anyway. So as Hamza, a YouTuber that I watch a lot, and I definitely recommend you consume some of his content. He finishes every video with do the hard work even when you don't feel like it. And that is really what I'm trying to say with this discipline and asceticism bullet point, is that you should do the hard work even when you don't feel like it. And again, there could be a whole video on exactly how to do that, but I'll move on quickly. Cool. The next one, compassion and grace. So this is something I've had to learn. And as I mentioned previously, I'm super, super hard on myself all the time. And for everything, like wanting to make progress, wanting to make more money, wanting to be in better shape, wanting to be a better son to my parents, brother to my sisters, a better friend, like whatever it is, like I'm always constantly grilling myself and thinking about what I could do better, which, like I said, has got me to the position that I'm in, but there's a lot of mental anguish that comes with that probably doesn't need to. So what I'm talking about when I say compassion and grace is just showing yourself compassion. Like last night, I didn't do the stretching. There's a lot of factors that played into it. I'm not going to make excuses, but I'm going to have compassion myself and say, hey, yesterday happened as it happened. You're still a good human being. You're still making the right decisions overall. So one little mistake doesn't make a big difference. You're gonna do your stretching tonight, as I promised myself in this video. So it's just showing yourself a bit of compassion. And obviously there is, as with all things pretty much with mental health, there's a bit of a paradox here. You don't want to show yourself too much compassion where you just let yourself off the hook and you don't set standards for yourself. But that said, you do need to show yourself a bit of compassion and just understand that we're all flawed human beings. We're going to make mistakes, but as long as you're striving in the right direction and doing most of the things right, then you need to be a bit kinder to yourself. So that's something too we spoke about in the last video about just like journaling on your thoughts, and that's something that I'd recommend you do on this as well, because I had a big realization which drew me to compassion for myself and self-love. Essentially, I wrote down and journaled the way I talked to myself, and it wasn't very kind. I feel like I'm very nice to other people, but the way that I would never talk to someone else the way that I was talking to myself is the bottom line. And so I knew I had to make a change then. So if that's something that you feel like you're struggling with, I definitely recommend that you journal on your self talk and the way that you talk to yourself, and how much you put yourself down, how much you're like negative about yourself. Because that is a big thing that you can turn around pretty quickly by just saying nice things about yourself. So, yeah, that's compassion and grace. Um, Cool. We'll skip over challenge your beliefs. So don't fight reality. This is something that I really, really struggled with at a previous job, and even I feel like I've overcome it significantly now, but it still crops up. So to give you a very, very abbreviated story, essentially I was working at a company. I had an expectation of how things were going to go, how things were going to progress, how my career was going to progress specifically. It didn't work out that way, and so essentially I just got very angry and fought against reality. I was like, no, it needs to be like this. I was arguing with the manager. I was arguing with other people on my team. Um, I was just in a negative state overall, and just essentially, there's a few times I cried at work, etc., because I wanted things to be this way and it wasn't, and I couldn't accept reality as it was. So this comes down to again the two kinds of suffering. So there was the suffering of, okay, this hasn't worked out how I wanted it to work out, and then I could have gone, okay, cool, process that. What do I want to do instead? I could go and find another job. I could accept things as the way that they are and just deal with it. There was a bunch of options available to me, but I couldn't take advantage of any of those because I was just so angry and so focused on this needs to be different than it is, and I just couldn't accept it. So if that's something that's happened for you right now, I'd recommend that you do it. Whether it's like the shape the shape that you're in, if you want to be going to the gym, whether it's like how much money you're making right now, whatever it is, just accept the reality that you've got right now. Don't get angry at yourself. Don't get angry at other people. Don't play the victim, which is something that I'd say is probably my biggest flaw. Is just when things don't go well, I play the victim. Um, and so yeah, don't fight against it. Put a plan in place of how you're going to fix it, but basically accept your current circumstances. So I won't go on any more about that. Again, if you have any questions on that, let me know. That's something I've dealt with a shitload. So if you feel like you're fighting against your reality and playing the victim, definitely reach out. I'll be happy to talk about that all day. And then obviously below that is accept your emotions too. So this happened not this week, last week. At the beginning of the week, I was just super angry. Didn't really know the reason why. I think work was just not going the way I wanted to, and there was like lots of stuff to do, which I was just kind of angry about the situation that had been created. Um, I didn't do this quick enough, but I did eventually accept my emotion. Just go, hey, I'm angry. That's cool. I'm allowed to be angry. I can let it go though, and just get on with what I need to get on with, and not let it consume my whole day. And that's eventually what it did. So Monday and Tuesday, Monday and part of Tuesday, I was very, very angry, getting pissed off at everybody, pissed off at traffic, pissed off at people cutting me off, whatever it was. Like I was just getting pissed off at everybody. People walking too slowly in front of me. I was just in a very angry mood. But eventually, I was able to accept those emotions, and the rest of last week was great and amazing, and I had a good time at work. So yeah, something you need to do very, very quickly. So the last thing I'm going to do, which I don't know how much this fits into this, but we're going to cover it anyway. So this is called a morning formula. So this is something that I look at every morning, and the reason I want to bring this up is because this was kind of like the last time I had a big rut. It was because I didn't update this. So I wrote one of these originally in 2020. I think I might have done a previous version before that, but it was last updated in 2020. And essentially, this all originates from the book Psycho Cybernetics, which is all about identity. So there was a plastic surgeon, and he would fix people's noses, etc. And what he realized was that some people would have a massive change in their confidence and even their results in life. Like they'd get the partner they were after, they'd get promotions at work, etc. Their confidence went through the roof because they'd fixed their insecurity. And other people had their nose fixed, but didn't experience that increase in confidence, didn't experience that change in their life. And so he was super, super curious about what the mechanism behind that was. And what he realized it was identity. So the people that didn't change, they still identified as someone with a big nose or a crap hairline or whatever it was. And so they weren't able to actually transcend that and be more confident. Whereas the people that did change, did get that bump in confidence by having their insecurity removed, they saw themselves as a more attractive person. as a person without these flaws. And so this whole document is about essentially taking control of that process for yourself, defining the person that you want to be so that you can basically essentially become that identity now. So why this is so powerful is because I looked at all the shit that I'd written in 2020 and with the income stuff, getting in the best shape of my life, the watch that I'm wearing right now, like all of the goals that I'd set and all of the identity of the person that I wanted to become, which is more important than the material stuff, all of that stuff had come true. And so this is something that I continue to do and I think would be helpful for you. So you can see it's all written in the third person. What you'll need to do is just basically sit down and really think about, which I don't think many people do, how you want your life to look and who you want to be as a person. Like, how do you want people to see you? You know, I want people to see me as committed, productive, and disciplined. You know, I want to get on with my family. I want them to have a great impression of me and think that I did everything I can for them. Like all of that stuff that's important to you should be in here. Like integrity is one of my biggest values. That's something that I always want people to say, regardless of what I do. Billy had integrity. If he didn't agree with something, he said about it. If he felt like it was like unethical or like immoral to do that, he would say it. So there's so much stuff in here, and then obviously there's some like material shit as well. Cool. And then really what you want to do, which you'll see from a lot of this, is that really attach it to emotions. That's what makes this powerful. So if you look at this bit, like everything he imagines come to fruition, he feels humble and hungry, content but not complacent. He helps those who believe in him and lets his success be an example. He smashes all of his goals spiritually, physically, socially, and financially. His sisters love him and he provides for support for them whenever they need him. They've found freedom too. The future's bright. Billy is revered and remembered like his granddad John, and his family regularly speak about his generosity, presence, and impact on their lives. So those are all things that that you want to like define for yourself. Like, how do you want people to remember you? How do you want people to think about you? What values do you want them to like assign to you? Cool. And then there's a little bit here where I've just kind of set the rules of my life a little bit. So I wake up at 7 o'clock every morning and go to bed at 9:30 every night. Normally I'm in bed at 9, read for half an hour, and then asleep or trying to get to sleep at 9:30. I make my family a priority. I never want money to overtake that in the same way for my health as well. I'm never going to sacrifice my health for my financial future. I'd be further ahead. I'd be making more money if I did do that, but that's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make. So I'd recommend that you define that for yourself as well. And then this is a quote directly from Psycho-Cybernetics, the book that I talked about, which is that you should devote 10 to 15 minutes every day to take the mental picture that you have in your head from a vague idea to a good sketch to a finely detailed, fully fleshed out and colored vision that occurs to you exactly the same way whenever called upon. So when I read this creates an image for me in my mind of like the person that I am, whether it's at 40 or 50 or whatever it is, and how I'm living my life and all of that. So that's what this is all designed to do, is to create that mental picture and the identity of who you want to become. So cool. Again, I've written some highlights from the last year here, which is I'd recommend you do as well. And then there's the goals and destinations that I'm driving towards on a daily basis. So you'll see that the YouTube course is on here as well. So yeah, still working towards that, and there's still a goal that I want to do. Cool. And then to like focus questions, I always say to myself is what do I want to create today? So obviously for today it's this video, what do I want to learn today? So there's some marketing stuff that I'm going to jump into after I get finished with this. So there's also a vision board. So I have that watch, but with a white face. So I'm hoping to get the one with a black face and get rid of this one. Penthouse Apartment, David Ogilvy, who ran one of the most successful advertising agencies in the world. I love the way that he dressed. I love what he stands for, and I love the way that he writes as well. So there's a lot to be admired there. Tesla with the body kit, another Penthouse Apartment, and then obviously the main man, Harvey Specter, and then some more stuff, financial stuff. Cool. And then in this I go into like the rules. So essentially this is the rules that I'm going to set for myself, which is kind of the same way as you want to see yourself. If you want to see yourself as a disciplined person, you need to set rules for yourself. So I have friends that are in the army, and I always kind of joke with them when they say, oh, why don't you sign up? Why don't you join that? I couldn't have someone tell me what to do. But essentially, whilst I have the choice here, I do set pretty tough rules for myself. So yeah, I spend 30 minutes every day working on me, whether that's like meditating, journaling, reading a book, whatever it is. Cool. I spend 1.5 hours, 4 to 5 days a week exercising. So the gym is like a non-negotiable for me. Again, I work from a list every day, which I've got here. So every day before I leave the office, I'll write the list for the next day. And so I'm never unclear about what I'm doing. Cool, I wake up at the same time. So whenever I go to the gym in the morning, I have to get up at 6:21. So it's normally 7 if I don't go to the gym. Cool. And then these are all parts of my journaling practice. So every week I list down 3 great things happen, learning lessons and corrections, what I want to study the next week, and then gratitude, as we spoke about. And then every month is more of a expanded version of that. And then just some notes and prompts for me here. Cool. So this bit I'll just skip over because it's kind of a bit of just an add-on here that I've added. Cool. And then I define all my year goals, my 3-year goals, my principles. So these are a lot of quotes that I've gathered that I really, really like. So I do see success as my duty, obligation, and responsibility. A lot of these are from Marcus Aurelius. I'm big into like Stoic philosophy, so a lot of these come from there. And then lastly, so this comes back to the positive self-talk, and you'll see again from the way that these are worded that they're very emotion heavy, and so all of these are designed to trigger a certain emotion. So again, I'll pick like 2 or 3 of these to say to myself in the morning, and they do make a big difference. So I'll attach this or a copy of this to the notes in here if this is something that you want to do for yourself. I think it's something that's super powerful. You don't have to have it be as detailed as me. Again, I've done this 2, 3, or 4 times. So every time I've kind of added stuff and made it more fleshed out. But again, in the beginning, you can just have a more basic version. I'd just say this top piece about you talking about yourself in the third person, the vision map, the rules to your life, and then the affirmations would be a really helpful thing for you to use. Again, if you have any questions on implementing this, please let me know. And that's everything for this video, apart from the supplementary reading. So the 4 Agreements is a book that I've read about 3 times, I think. Very, very good, and is still my current bookmark. So that's a book that I definitely recommend that you read. A lot about not taking things personally. So again, with my propensity to play the victim, that was really helpful to me. Always doing your best, again, and having compassion on yourself when it doesn't quite work out like that. Don't pass judgment as well is another thing. Can be a very judgmental person, so that book really helped me to not pass judgment on other people or judge the way that they live their lives. Cool. And then The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, another great book, a bit of a staple of personal development, but I do really like Mark Manson and what he stands for and his take on personal development, so definitely recommend you read that. And then Practical Mindfulness was the book that I mentioned that helped me with my first depressive episode. So cool. If you have any questions on any of this stuff, I realize some of the stuff I've skimmed over a little bit, so if you want me to do another video more in depth, let me know. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you soon.